This is how I make my special salsa. First off, I start by cutting up some cilantro. I try to get it pretty thin for this salsa. You don't want big chunks of cilantro in your salsa. That's all you're gonna taste. Fortunately, I'm one of the people who love cilantro. I know a few people who say it tastes like soap, but for me, I got fortunate enough that it tastes good. So here we go. I'm just finishing up chopping it up. I'm making quite a big portion here, so I use just about half of a whole thing of cilantro. So here I'm just cutting it up, making sure it's very thin. Now I add it to the bowl, and that's the first step of this salsa. Let's get it off my hand here with the blade. Be careful you don't cut yourself. Now second, I go in with one avocado. Try to cut it into thin chunks, so as you can see, I'm just cutting it up real quick here. So I cut into slices, and then I chunk it up into little chunks so it mixes in with the cilantro well. Do the same for the other one. Be careful with the avocado, cutting it this way, just because of how slippery it can be. So yeah, this is a ripe avocado. You want to make sure your avocado is ripe for the salsa, or you're just going to have chunks of hard avocado, which you do not want in your salsa. Also, you won't get as much flavor if it is not ripe enough. So as you can see here, I'm adding into the bowl with the cilantro. Don't be afraid to add everything together. Now you grab the tomatoes. Same thing with the tomatoes. You want to cut it into small-ish chunks, same size or a little bit smaller than the avocado. Make sure your knife is somewhat sharp for this. You don't want to squish your tomato. If you squish your tomato, it's going to be all wilky, and all the liquid is just going to swirl out into your salsa, which you don't want. You don't want your salsa to be overcome with all the liquid from the tomato. So here we go, just chopping it up, making sure it's into small chunks here. So yeah, as I chop it up, I'm thinking about what else I have to do after this, which will come later in the video here. Yeah, so now that I have most of my tomato chopped up, right after this, I'm going to add it into the bowl with all my other ingredients, and I'll show you what else goes into this. So now that that's done, I grab just about half, and I'm focusing on chopping up the onion to small chunks, just like the tomato and cilantro are. As you can see, I'm just using the common use technique. Here we go, just chopping it up. You want to dice the onion very thin, because if you have large chunks of onions in your salsa, then again, if you bite into your burrito, whatever you're using it for, and you get a large slice of onion, that's all you're gonna taste. And you don't want to just taste one ingredient in the salsa. Therefore, I am making sure I cut this up into thin diced chunks. So here we go, just finishing it up here. I like to just add it all together and just give it a few more cuts just to make sure. Now I add it to the bowl with all the other ingredients. As you can see, I have the lime on the side here that I'm gonna grab, and I just cut it in half, cut it into quarters so I can squeeze it out very good. Make sure your hands are completely clean. You don't want to be touching food with your hands if they're not completely clean. So here we go, I'm just squeezing the lime in there. You want quite a bit of lime because you want to taste that in your salsa. It really makes a big difference if you have lime. So here I'm just squeezing it in, trying to get every last drip. And now that I think I do, I come over here, I got the salt and pepper. I like to put salt and pepper just for a little taste. And then sugar. This is the secret here. You want to put quite a bit of sugar just because you want that sweetness. And garlic, you need the garlic. You need quite a bit of garlic. You want to taste this in your salsa. So now that I had that, I will come back over here, just get a little bit of oil. Make sure to stir it all together. And then this is when you have to use your tongue for this salsa. You have to taste it. You have to taste it multiple times. You have to make sure that all the flavors are on point. And once you think like that, it is ready to serve up for you, your family, whoever you're making for. Don't be like me and dump half of the bowl on the table. But here you go. Yeah, that's my salsa. You guys should try it out. For me, I always get good things said about it. Thanks.